First of all, this is a new altar arrangement, and I actually found a spice rack and just covered it with fabric and mounted it to the table. I've been wanting to do that for a while because, well, I had been just stacking boards on top of each other, and that really don't work that great. But yeah, finally got the foldable spice rack as the statue stand. Although it could have been a little bit taller, because I had to maneuver some of the statues so you could see all of them. But other than that, it's doing good. And also, for those that do buy the new Walmart incense, it's random. You never know when you're going to get it. But they've started putting these little place cards that'll have a positive saying on it. Like, every day is a chance to be better. And this other one is, if you light a lamp for somebody, it will brighten your path. They started doing these, and I like keep them. But yeah, now it's actually starting to warm up here, even though it's still kind of chilly. But the topic at hand is, I don't see a difference in European paganism and animism. Mainly because the word pagan, while it's Latin, was given by the Romans to country people, the Pagani. And that was any country people they come in contact with. And they consider, since these people worshipped out in nature or in primitive little temples, Romans, kind of looked down on them. There was no, other than the elite classes had their own priest. The druids and such were of the elitist class and really didn't tend to care about the common people that much. They were mostly the priesthood for the nobles and such. Like I said, when church and state, no matter what type in history, merge, it's always a bad deal. But most of the great temples were actually by the elites. So it wasn't your common person kind of thing. And even if you looked in the Celts, for example, you would have a village priest that was not technically a druid. You'd have a little village sacred place, aside from the state-sponsored temples and namatons. And at these little country village type of shrines, you could actually go there, and actually participate in the service rather than... Yeah, sometimes like we have references in the Norse sagas about the temples being open to the public during certain times, but it was usually a show of the elites. So, now the country people were more tied to the earth and its seasons, hence they followed a more shamanic, or as we'd say today, animistic view on things. There was no official worship. You usually worshipped whenever you wanted to. And even then, it was with spirits and deities that you thought would enrich your life and your well-being. There was no one telling you who to worship. The gods really didn't need worship, so to speak, in this early phase. Except when you got into... That becomes standard when you got into priesthoods that determined their whole livelihood was determined on people actually going to the temples and paying money. That's when, the gods demanded worship and such. If you look at Mongolian shamanism today and Shinto, yes, there's temples and stuff, but the majority of the worship goes on right in your own house or out in nature. And there's no standard, really, other than festivals, there were no recommended, things. And that's actually why I'm reclaiming the word pagan. Because to me, an Arith, Pagani, country people, people of the earth, hence animistic. So to us, there is no separation between paganism and animism. what sets animism apart is working with the natural world, working with its forces, going with the flow of life. Not trying to escape to some afterlife, although we do believe in an afterlife. It's just not, well, to most of us, the afterlife is pristine nature. That's our view. Just nature as it should be in its full divine manifestation. We're not wanting to escape from this world. We want to fix this world while we can. Because once the idea developed it, and also if you read or watch Arth's stuff, he'll go into detail, more detail than I will, on how slowly we started worshiping the gods of the elite and how the elites run things, and that when it come into monotheistic religions, which all wanted to view the world as evil or as tainted, and you need to get away from that and go to someplace pure, that is where we consider religion got off its tracks. So, as I was saying, and apparently somebody just wants to send me messages like crazy, but that, actually, if you read the Carmina Gallica, which is the book that, although it's Christianized, it was the Scottish prayers and stuff that they would utter daily, and it gives a hint to the pagan past, even though it's Christianized, that what we would call worship was a daily act. Usually you would praise your gods and spirits when you woke up in the morning, usually around noon too. You would offer your food to them, and then you would, of course, say goodnight to them. And all this was ungoverned by any religious authority other than the householders. So that's where I stand on that. That's why I've actually tried to reclaim the word pagan. To me, it represents someone who follows the natural paths of the earth. And that's also why I allied with Universal Life Church. Yes, they did some bad things in the 60s with their tax dodging, but their overall goal that there are many gods or one source of power that we may call different, and that it's open to all paths, and we got to learn eternal progression, and we needed to work together to save this world and not worry about what world comes next. And that's, although some people break animism and paganism down, I don't, because I see them as the same thing. Unregulated worship, and most of our rituals are fancy versions of what we do with family and friends. That is, invite somebody in, give them food, give them something to drink, or go spend time in their place out in nature, So all of our rituals are based on human needs to commune and with each other. So I'm for unregulated worship. And that's what so many of the modern pagan groups have become so formal, you can't deviate and stuff, and they're doing the same thing other religions have done. That is, set everything in stone where you can't advance. You're supposed to always be advancing. That's how life works. You got to evolve, adapt, and overcome. You can't just stay stagnant. And part of this is brought on because me and Fox were talking late last night, and although I didn't spout off as much because that's saved for later, religiously, I'm a pagan animist, and I view the natural world as sacred. You can't separate the sacred from the physical. So that so many religions are fear-based or whatever. No, we just want to live with harmony with everything around us, so we make relationships with various spirits and deities that will enhance us, our life, and that will help us on our quest to become something more than what we were when we were born. You're supposed to continuously progress. And I should write a blurb about this on Facebook, put a picture with it, and although as those that read my books understand, yeah, I have ADHD, so deal with it. But that's where I stand. That's why I'm actually thinking about making a thing where Universal Life Church ordination is a little open-ended, but if somebody really wants to be ordained by my temple, just write me a letter on why you feel it's necessary, and when I finally get the paper and everything, I'll start printing certificates. But that's my view. To me, you had ritual specialists, that would be the shamans and everything, but in animism, there were no cut orders of priesthood that were sponsored by the state. And I say state, that's just an easy way. I'm not saying king, nation, and all that stuff. And my number one view is church and state should never be married, because bad things happen throughout history when that happened, or when a ruler got advanced with one religion. Oh, there's the mouse, talking about animism, and the mouse is behind the backdrop, which I'm probably have to get the live trap and relocating, because I'm not fond of the mouse smell and such, and it's getting to be annoying, so I'm going to get those little live traps where I can trap him and put him outside somewhere. Oh, nobody's seeing the incense smoke. There we go. But yeah, that's just some of my thoughts on it. To me, paganism is the European animism. But I think we messed up when we started having state temples and stuff, and professional priesthoods that always goes down bad. Yes, priests should be trained in a lot of stuff, including basic first aid and such, but not as our idea of priests are different than the Christian idea. First of all, any of us can talk to the gods with or without a priest. We are our own priest whenever we do a ritual. In most of the old views, Norse, Celtic, your basic village priest was just somebody that maintained a space for worship and that knew how to do certain rituals. That's all it is. They'd also counsel, but not as much as Christian ministers do. So, I've actually backtrotted some. In my first book, we had like 13 different principles of belief. I've actually narrowed those down to about 3 principles now. Because the older I get, the more free-flowing and not set in stone I believe it should be. And that, of course, goes along with animism. We should always be growing and expanding. So yeah, and if anybody wants to chime in on this video whenever you see it, spout what you believe and such, feel free to ask questions and such. But yeah, that's just a little blurb on what I think about animism and paganism, and why I don't personally see a difference between the two. So, Thanks for listening, everybody. Until the next video, bright blessings.